Hello and welcome to Endeavour Sports Coaching. I'm Ollie, and for this video we are going to look at more hand-eye coordination, but we're actually going to use either a tennis racket or a saucepan. So I want to make it inclusive for everyone, so if you don't have a tennis racket you can actually use an old saucepan and a tennis ball. So the first exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to really simply take our hand and our tennis ball, and we're just going to try and keep our hand nice and flat. We're just going to try and balance the ball on our hand as long as possible. Okay, so we're trying to keep it nice and flat and control the ball. If we're starting to get really good at this, we can start walking around and moving to try and really keep that balanced. Okay, so exercise number one, all you need is tennis ball in your hand. Try and do it on both hands to help yourself work on both hands for coordination, and give it a go. So exercise number two, we're going to actually use a racket or a pan. If you haven't got a racket, like I said, just use a frying pan. Just use an old one. It's slightly easier with a frying pan because you've got the edges, so the ball can't actually roll out. But if you've got a frying pan, just try and keep the ball in the middle of the frying pan for as long as you can. So keep it really balanced. If it hits the edges, you lose a point. Okay, so keep it in the middle of the pan for as long as you can. With a racket, the ball can actually fall off the edge, okay, so slightly harder, but again, the first exercise is just trying to get the ball balanced as long as you can, trying to keep it in the middle of the strings. If you're finding this easy, again, start walking about, try and make it slightly harder for you. This is generally for nursery to year 2, but it's actually open to anyone, so if you're finding it difficult, then give it a go. So exercise number 2, keeping the ball balanced on your strings for as long as you can. Now, exercise number 3, very similar. Again, we can use the frying pan or the racket for this, and all we're going to do, we're going to start with the ball on the strings, and we're just going to start trying to do some keepy-ups. Okay, so we're keeping the strings nice and flat. We can use 2 hands if we want to, and we're just doing little soft hits with the ball, trying to keep it going for as long as you can. Now, when you're doing this, especially for the younger children, just try and make sure that the strings or the pan is facing straight up. As soon as they start to tilt, the ball's going to change direction and go, and you're going to lose control. So try and keep it straight up in the air. As soon as I start twisting the strings, the ball starts going everywhere. So it's really important that they control the strings and keep them facing up. And this is really good for your hand-eye coordination because it allows you to move the racket and actually start controlling where the ball's going to go. So a really good one, really fun one to do. Try and see how many of those you can do in a row. So see what your best score is. Quite tricky. Try and get to 10 if you can. Again, this is aimed for younger children, but if you've never played tennis or you've never done really hand-eye coordination skills, then this might be quite tricky for you to do. We're going to progress it now to make it slightly harder. And for this one, what we're going to do, similar thing. We're going to start with the ball on the strings, and as we start doing our keepy-ups, we're actually going to start trying to turn the racket over to the other side. Okay, so we're going to twist our strings, and we're going to continue to keep the ball going up in a straight line. So again, when I'm twisting my racket, I'm keeping the strings pointing up, so I'm not turning it and aiming to the side. Okay, I'm keeping the strings nice and flat. And again, when I'm doing this, I'm not hitting it too high, so I'm controlling how high the ball goes. If you've got a small foam ball, you can actually do this inside. You don't need much space for this, and it's really good for the hand-eye coordination. I'm going to give the frying pan a go. Obviously the underside's slightly harder, so this can be quite tricky, but you can still work on your hand-eye coordination. Okay, so you don't have to have a tennis racket. You can use an old frying pan and a tennis ball or a softball, and it's still good for your hand-eye coordination to be able to move your hand, move the racket or the pan to where the ball is. Okay, so quite tricky. Now the last one with a frying pan, it's going to be really tricky, so I'm not going to give that a go. But with the racket, again, teaching, I don't think I know any year 2 children that have been able to do more than 3 of these. Really tricky. We're going to use the edge of the racket, and we're going to see how many we can do in a row. So this is where we're again trying to control the ball and nice soft hits. So it's quite tricky, and you've got to try and really control how soft you're hitting it and how much you're moving the racket. Obviously you haven't got much of an edge to hit with, so quite a difficult skill. So this can be done, you know, I've had year 8s do this and year 9s who struggle with this as well. So try and just use the edge as long as you can. Again, to make that slightly easier, you could actually go twisting and then maybe put the odd edge in, so you're controlling, and then you're going to use the edge. Okay, so you've got a few variations there you can do. The hardest one is the edge, trying to keep it as many times as you can on the edge, or we can do some twisting of the racket and then using the edge. Like I said, with the frying pan, quite difficult because of the way the frying pan's angled. Oh, 2. So see how many you can do. There you go. So quite hard with the frying pan, but give it a go. It all helps towards your hand-eye coordination, your movement, and the more you're able to control the ball, the better your hand-eye coordination is. So you're able to actually control where the ball's going and how your body's reacting to that ball. So a bit of fun. Like I said, you don't need a racket. Use a frying pan, use a tennis ball, and try and record your scores. So how many keepy-ups can you do in a row? Just normal. How long can you keep the ball balanced for? So if you're younger, if you're in nursery, maybe even balancing the ball for 30 seconds is a really good result. And then in year 1 and 2, being able to do 10 keepy-ups is really good. And then moving up through the years, actually making it slightly harder. Obviously if you're in nursery and you can do 10 keepy-ups, switching sides, brilliant, really good. I hope this helped. I hope it gave you some ideas to do at home with your hand-eye coordination. Really useful that you don't need a racket, so you can actually use something that everyone will have at home and everyone can give this a go. So record your scores, let us know how you got on, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.